Dhamma Talk from the Buddha, 29th of November 2022. The true meaning of Buddhism. In order not to waste the rare opportunity of our human birth, we should strive to do good, and not to allow any bad behavior to tarnish the purity of the Buddhist path. Buddhism is all about developing right view, right understanding, and right practice. It is about developing morality, concentration, and wisdom, sila, samadhi, and panya. It is not an enterprise, an entity, or a person. Buddhism is all about Dhamma. We have the guidance of the Tipitaka, which is a collection of the Buddha's teachings. These teachings were gathered and organized by his noble disciples, the Arahants, and divided into 3 sections, Vinaya Pitaka, Sutta Pitaka, and Abhidhamma Pitaka. These teachings are a complete record of the Dhamma teachings of the Buddha. Unfortunately, the majority of the content in Tipitaka has been disregarded by the Mahayana tradition, which strongly promotes intellectual knowledge. In early times, the teachings of the Mahayana tradition seem logical, as the Dhamma teachings of the Buddha are logical and scientific. However, without putting those teachings into practice, without experiencing them directly by walking the path of practice leading to path, fruition, and nibbana, those who teach Dhamma become mere philosophers or psychologists. Nevertheless, once in a while, there arose in a very few noble ones who attained full awakening as a result of their cumulative merits and wholesome deeds. We can take the effort of Ashoka, the Great, as an example. During his reign, there were only a few Arahants, but a large number of corrupt monks. To maintain the purity of Buddhism, King Ashoka decided to disrobe and expel corrupt and heretical monks, whose intention was to gain money, women, fame, honor, and praise, but not path, fruition, and nibbana. This led to the birth of many Arahants afterwards. As the Buddha enlightened and taught all of us, path, fruition, and nibbana can only be attained through the cultivation of morality, concentration, and wisdom. Buddhism in Thailand is also considered quite a failure. There are Mahachulalongkorn Rajavidyalaya University, Mahamakut Buddhist University, as well as a few monks graduating with the highest levels of Pali studies each year. Still, it is failing because most focus on textbooks, knowledge, and intellectual understanding of the teachings, but not on putting them into practice. This news about some monks even driving cars, boats, etc. has caused damage to the country, making it difficult for abbots to supervise and run Buddhist monasteries with grace. Who knows, we may even see monks flying in private jets in the future. This is the reason why younger generations, who tend to be sensible, do not respect monks because they do not seem to have confidence in Buddhism. Nowadays, there are already a lot of old abandoned monasteries. Had it not been illegal to sell monastery land in Thailand, many of them would have been sold already. In other countries, there are many abandoned churches, many of which has been bought and turned into Buddhist ordination halls as Buddhism spreads in the West. Churches have been abandoned because of widespread heresy in Christianity. The many heretical priests who fail to practice the core teachings and doctrines of Christian faith. The Buddha called fake or heretical monks leprous monks, as they can infect other well-disciplined monks and turn them into leprous monks too. When well-disciplined monks can see leprous monks making easy money and enjoying superior living standards through fawning over lay devotees, although these monks might be well-disciplined at the beginning, The greed slowly creeps into their minds as they do not have a firm goal to practice for Nibbana. And when they learn that they cannot make a superior living by following the path of practice of the Buddha, they then change the focus of their learning to dark magic, making charms or any tricks to earn them money, without shame and fear of doing evil. The fawning and flattery of these leprous monks has caused the decline of Buddhism. Day by day, with unrestrained minds, these leprous monks move further away from Nibbana and closer to Apaya, rebirth in lower worlds. They bring danger to Buddhism and will eventually cause the destruction of Buddhism. The decline of Christianity in some places, some time ago, came about due to leprous priests who enjoyed luxurious living conditions, lavishly decorated churches that appeared more like palaces, and abundant wealth gained from performing religious rituals. They enjoyed extravagant lifestyles, while the lay devotees who made donations still live in poverty. In the end, the decline of Christianity was inevitable. Therefore, we should all cultivate right understanding about religion. Religion is all about Dhamma. Dhamma is religion. Religion is not an enterprise, not a person, does not exist in any form of self. It is not a philosophy, nor is it a psychology. Buddhism requires putting the Buddha's teachings into practice. Some say practice, some say therapy. The meaning is the same. This is the true meaning of Buddhism, to be understood correctly. We can take a look at the good example set by the Venerable Ajahn Chah's disciples, who brought Buddhism to the West. While in London with his disciples, Ajahn Chah kept strictly to the discipline of walking on morning alms round every day. He did not do it to receive food, but to show the people and the world what Buddhist monks and the morning alms rounds were about. And all his disciples strictly followed in Ajahn Chah's footsteps, wherever they were living. As well as the disciples of Venerable Ajahn Chah, those of Ajahn Mahabua and of Tan Ajahn Buddhadasa also kept strictly to the monastic discipline when in foreign countries. They were monks who were mentally cultivated and who were thus chosen to do this special task. Buddhism is a science that goes beyond science. It teaches humans to work diligently to gain wealth, but not to attach to wealth. It teaches celestial beings to enjoy happiness, but not to attach to happiness. Monks who can correctly convey these teachings need to be specially and carefully chosen. Nonetheless, there are cases where Buddhist monks have become philosophers or psychologists after residing in a foreign country for a certain period, because they have forgotten the teachings of the Buddha and of Kruba Ajahn and started to ignore the monastic disciplines and routines. These monks are considered to be failing monks. On the other hand, there are also examples of senior monks from Thailand getting admonished by foreign monks for carrying cameras and taking pictures while visiting foreign lands as messengers of Dhamma. Monks carrying cameras while walking present an embarrassing image of a lack of self-restraint and calmness. In the Tipitaka, Samana Buddhist monks are explained as those who are self-disciplined and calm. Camera-carrying monks who act smart taking pictures or videos while walking give a very different impression. This kind of lax discipline of Buddhist monks in foreign monasteries is the reason why these monks cannot perfectly teach Dhamma Vinaya. How could they, when they are themselves bad examples of monastic discipline? In addition, routines of reverence towards senior or junior monks are also being ignored, resulting in every monk being treated the same. This is evidence that monastic discipline is being thrown away. Monastic discipline is equated with sila or morality, training of the mind to refrain from greed, hatred, and delusion. For those who aim to end the cycle of birth and death, they can only do it with a mind that is trained in morality, concentration, and wisdom. As the mind training deals with the mind only, it directly relates to walking the path of morality, concentration, and wisdom, and has nothing to do with the law. Mental training can only be done by cultivating morality, concentration, and wisdom, by doing good and avoiding the evil through speech and actions. But as Buddhist monks are becoming weaker and weaker in keeping strictly to monastic discipline, Buddhism is in decline, with more and more monks turning into just philosophers and psychologists. As monastic discipline is being ignored, some monks talk to women alone in private places. Some monks will shake hands with women, to be in accordance with Western culture. But as Buddhist monks who strictly adhere to the Buddha's Dhamma Vinaya, we cannot allow ourselves to be weakened by external conditions and do such things. We must keep strictly to Dhamma Vinaya. An example is what happened at the charity event organized at the Assumption School the other day. Prior to the event opening, there was a dancing show by beautifully dressed female dancers, which might be acceptable for a Christian event, but is prohibited for Buddhist monks. The reason for this prohibition is that the more frequently a monk watches such shows, the more likely it is that he will develop fondness for them and start looking forward to seeing the next one. It is important for monks to be careful not to be fascinated by the sights and sounds of entertainment, as this is going against the Dhamma Vinaya. Monks need to schedule their arrival time appropriately, as at many events nowadays a show is arranged prior to the event opening, to entertain the guests while they are waiting. For lay people organizing such events, it is important to make sure that the monks are invited to the event after the entertainment is finished and just before the Buddhist ceremony starts. As Buddhist monks, we must be careful and arrange these things properly. Sometimes we allow ourselves to be swayed by our weaknesses. For example, some of the monks in our monastery might think that it is okay to have a mobile phone, just in case I need to use it. It's okay because I have cultivated a firm mind in all my long years since ordination. But that is not the case, because it will more or less negatively affect the newly ordained monks and samaneras, who are watching with excitement to see if senior monks will carry mobile phones, so that they can use this as an excuse to do the same thing, so that they do not need to hide their mobile phones anymore. Senior monks must contemplate this matter carefully. We, monks, should use mindfulness, wisdom, and be a good example to other monks and samaneras. The lay disciples, upasakas and upasikas around us, who are willing and waiting to serve, can help us if these devices are needed. If we do not use these services, they will not have a chance to serve well as upasakas and upasikas. This is how monks should contemplate their roles. We can look at another example of weakness. When some disciples of Lungta Mahabua wanted to be able to eat sunflower seeds after midday, they gave sunflower seeds to Lungta Mahabua and told him that sunflower seeds were medicine for his eyes, brightening the eyes and improving eyesight. When Lungta Mahabua ate them as medicine, half the monks in Thailand were happy that they did not have to secretly eat sunflower seeds anymore. But the truth is that sunflower seeds are considered to be food and are not allowed after midday. This is an example of lax discipline and weakness which slowly and gradually creep into our minds. It is the same problem as some Kammatthana monks who like to interpret certain types of foods as allowable or medicines, so that they can have a big bowl of allowables for dinner. We have to remind and stop each other from this kind of behavior. We all know what's going on. When I tell all these stories and give these examples, you, monks, look at each other and smile. We all know that it is hard to control our cravings for tasty food. The noble conduct and discipline are what we have to strictly adhere to because we are Buddhist monks who are selfless. Without hunger, sickness, old age, death, and separation from our loved ones, we would not have the chance to train in self-restraint or to cultivate the mind. As the human realm is the perfect realm for self-restraint and mind cultivation, we must not waste this rare chance to cultivate the mind, and we must do so diligently, day and night. During the Buddha's time, if not seriously ill, monks would never sleep during the day, but would practice walking or sitting meditation and train the mind to be at the present moment. There were no fake monks then. What are fake monks? Monks that sit upright and appear restrained during ceremonies in the hall in front of people, but who lose their self-restraint and fall asleep sitting or lying against the wall during meditation when back at their own kutis, as if meditation can be done in any posture, even in their sleep. Behavior like this is not acceptable. Everyone here must practice self-restraint, mind cultivation, and selflessness. Whether we are laity or monks, we must be selfless, determined to cultivate our minds with morality, concentration, and wisdom, with Dhamma as our focus. Do not let ourselves turn into Moga Purisa, useless men, or Moga Striya, useless women. We should follow the path of practice of the Buddha. The Buddha never stored any food for the next few days after finishing his meal. The Buddha never had any personal possessions. Venerable Ajahn Chah's teachings related to this matter were well thought out and correct. He taught his disciples that, if you have ordained with me, the only personal possessions you are allowed to own are Dhamma, Vinaya, path, fruition, and Nibbana only, not food, appliances, etc. If someone makes an offering to you in the form of cash or other items, the cash and all items are to be collectively owned by the Sangha and the monastery. Do not keep possessions of anything in your shelter other than the 3 yellow robes, kettle, glass, and spoon, and shoulder bag containing a sitting cloth. Without money, you will be without stress. During the Buddha's time, lay devotees who wanted to make a donation would not write down the donated sum on paper. Instead, they would verbally announce the amount of donation in public so that the amount was publicly acknowledged. Nowadays, things have changed. Donations are written down, and greedy monks somehow find a way to keep these donations for themselves. Monks are human beings too, and they cannot resist the power of greed. Even abbots, heads of the Sangha, are all subject to change if money is involved. These are cases where the abbots are invited to a Buddhist ceremony and offered some cash donation. The donations are then kept in the abbot's shoulder bag and personally owned by the abbot, not collectively owned by the Sangha, as the abbot's disciples would think. It is only after the abbots pass away that the sums of money kept in their personal bank accounts get revealed. The root causes of this are the monks' lax discipline, their weak and deluded minds. This shows a bad example of monks and causes impurity in the minds of the lay people. If a monk's mind is swayed in this direction, the mind that is aimed at awakening will then be replaced by the mind of ignorance. In the old days, Kammatthana monks may have rebuked city monks and provincial head monks with honorific titles on their lax discipline. But nowadays, as honorific titles have also been awarded to Kamatana monks who are willing to receive them, all monks are now quiet about the lax discipline of the monks. This proves that anyone can be deluded with ignorance, even monks. This is how weakness creeps into our minds. Some monks are so busy that they do not have the time for morning or evening chanting. Behavior like this minimizes the value and virtue of Dhamma Vinaya. The above explanation may appear to focus on the perspective of a decline of Buddhism, but in fact, Buddhism is not declining. It is everlasting, not bound by time. The decline is actually that of shameless monks who ignore Dhamma Vinaya. Only one shameless monk can cause great damage and even ruin the lives of our offspring. Because of their evil-mindedness, shameless monks are unable to accumulate merit or any benefits from Buddhism, even though they summon people to build ordination halls, assembly halls, stupas, and teach the lay community about giving food and making merit. Instead of walking the path of practice of the Buddha, they establish and attach to their own enterprises and egos. If we allow this to continue, path, fruition, and nibbana will eventually disappear from our community and generation. The Buddha taught that, Bhikkhus, you should train like this. We shall not have many wishes or be frustrated by desires. We shall be content with any kind of robes, alms food, lodgings, and medicines and supplies for the sick. We shall not allow corrupt wishes for status, honor, material possessions, or popularity. We shall not try hard, strive, and make an effort to get these things. We shall endure cold, heat, hunger, and thirst. We shall endure the touch of flies, mosquitoes, wind, sun, and reptiles. We shall endure rude and unwelcome criticism. We shall put up with physical pain, sharp, severe, acute, unpleasant, disagreeable, and life-threatening. That is how you should train.